And welcome to the Daily Space Weather, folks. I'm your guest, Dan. I'm your guest and your host, Dan, aka smAsho. Since I'm not only smAsho, I'm also a client. Part of the reason why I watch the live premieres with our viewers. It's not just to promote the channel. It's, again, because I'm not only smAsho, but I'm also a client. We're starting things out by looking at the sun here in 193 angstroms to see some coronal holes, especially in the north and the south. Basically all in the Earth-facing region, a bunch of coronal holes there. And we haven't seen a sunspot get named. So we see some activity setting in the southwest, as well as some filamentary stuff going on in the northeast. And yeah, no sunspots, pretty low activity. Next we'll look at HelioViewer and show you the fields. Here are the fields. Not a lot of field organization going on there. And the place to watch is right up here. But okay, Epic Pen doesn't work in HelioViewer once again. So it's gone back into a non-functioning stage. So we see some activity right here, and it's highly magnetically organized. So that's the place I'll be watching. And here's the 304 angstroms view, the current situation. And this gives you a good idea of filamentary behavior when we fade to the 171 angstroms. And by the way, we are streaming once again live to Twitch. Thanks everybody who tunes in there. We greatly appreciate you viewing the content live. Next, we've got some custom HelioViewer movies. Here's the filamentary region in the southeast in 304 angstroms, which is, by the way, a UV ionized state of helium. It's the UV emission spectra from an ionized state of ultra-hot helium. Next, we'll look at the northwest region. And there's that large filament up there just kind of suspended by magnetic fields. Please leave us a comment if you know what synchrotron radiation is. And cyclotron radiation. Do you know? Are you aware? And lastly, looking at this sunspot that never got named, as the umbra evaporated and reappeared a few times throughout the day. It was not a steady umbra for more than 12 hours, hence it never got a name. It would have been sunspot 2766, but it didn't quite stay magnetically formed long enough. Next, we'll look at the real-time solar wind. And if you notice tweaks in the format, it's because we're always changing everything constantly, even if it looks like it's the same all the time. Believe me, it's not at all. So we see a recent ramp down in the solar wind speed here. Now the solar wind speed at 328 kilometers a second. Solar wind density 4.31 protons per cubic centimeter, and phi angle around 300 degrees. Nothing really to speak of there in the BTBZ either. Let's look at geospace magnetosphere movies next. There's 4 hours of data. It's refreshed and interrupted me, as it typically does. There's 4 hours of data courtesy of University of Michigan Geospace Model V 1.5. And we don't see a lot of pressure here, as it's just a pretty weak background level solar wind as we slowly ramp up from solar minimum conditions. Next, we'll look at geospace ground magnetic perturbations. And I don't expect to see many, but I didn't watch this during show prep. So check it out, it's a reaction video. Oh my God, there are no ground perturbations. By the way, you're living through a geomagnetic excursion. If you were not aware, we have 2 north poles, one over Siberia and one over northern Canada. And the South Pole has left the Antarctic continent and crept into the southern Indian Ocean. You can see some evidence of that in that film. Now, yesterday we debuted a video, Terms Defined, featuring special guest Eugene the Philosopher, about socialism, where we talked for about an hour and 12 minutes or so with collaborator Eugene Bagashov about socialism, and it was very interesting. We plan to actually do a follow-up because we glossed over a bit of the sections that we're going to cover. So by the way, thanks to our patrons, thanks to our subscribe stars, and we need lots more funding. So if you're not already opening up your moldy, moth-filled wallet and paying us some cash to make the content, please do so. We're also looking at making merch, and we've been massively delayed on various plans throughout the year, not only because of scamdemic, but also because of just people deciding to adjust their donation. So don't be surprised if the content totally vanishes from YouTube, as we get paid nothing. We make about 2 cents per hour, and our hourly wage drops and drops on YouTube. So, I don't know, share it, don't share it, we don't really care. We're also on BitChute, and I highly suggest you subscribe over there at bitchute.com/smashomash, as again, the YouTube channel could vanish or be set to private with absolutely no warning and no recourse for our viewers. And welcome to the Smash Lights section during this smAsho stream, where we'll talk about, I don't know, whatever we want. Let's see what's first on the agenda. And please just bear with me one moment, folks. I've got to open up some docs to make sure that we can view the chat if anybody is chatting with us here in the live stream. So today's Smash Lights section is going to contain some stuff about all kinds of spooky things. And let's kick up some mood music to make the right sort of a atmosphere, shall we? All right. And again, we're very, very scared, and we're going to talk some tales of terror. Now we're listening to Bach's Toccata and Fugue in D minor right now, and let me read some tales of terror. Now we covered this momentarily over the weekend, yesterday on Sunday's Daily Space Weather video. If you haven't watched that, perhaps check it out. It's an article that we're going to revisit, written by illiterate author Jeremy Schneider. If you'd like to email Jeremy, send him an email at njschneider@njadvancemedia.com. That's njschneider at njadvancemedia.com. As he's very, very scared. And of course, I'm very, very scared too. I'm scared for you, folks. Check it out. Updated on Saturday, June 27th, Jersey Shore nightlife is back, and it scared the hell out of me. Now, this reporter, he drove up to a bar, which had a cover charge, which would scare the hell out of me. But anyway, there was a massive line there, and there were a bunch of people standing too close to be considered socially distanced. Many of the people were not even wearing masks, threatening to shut down his visit to the bar before it even begun. The long, cramped, and mostly unmasked line to get into the outdoor bar almost sent Jeremy packing. Whether it was fudge packing or not, I have no idea, and I don't really care. It turns out this bar must be only concerned about profits and not people, or spikes in COVID-19 cases. Oh yes. Did you hear about the infamous Lake of the Ozarks pool party? I didn't. And I think I'm going to print up shirts that say, "Please cough on me." What say you? Check it out, it's some irony. Some around him in line were talking about, you guessed it, the soaring coronavirus totals in other states like Texas and Florida. Call me Mr. Cautious, but this is how we get there, folks. Now, I assume Jeremy was wearing a mask and looking like a complete COVIDIOT and not understanding the first thing about the transmission of infectious diseases or about personal protective equipment. But it's certain that Jeremy is illiterate, as he likes to start sentences with the word "but." So Jeremy, please take College Lit 101. Now, Jeremy was thrilled that there was no line, but soon found out that was because they were no longer letting people in. Now that sounds scary. A bouncer told him the plan was to cut off admission at 10 p.m. An employee told our photographer that things had been mellow all night, seemingly heeding the warning from Belmar Mayor Mark Walsafa, who last week said if they didn't shape up, they're going to get shut down and they know it. Oh my God. Oh. Getting turned away is better than waiting in an unsafe line, even if you're safe once you get into the bar. I don't know why you'd be safe once you get into the bar, but here's another sentence starting with a conjunction, and the line gets much, much safer. If you just freaking wear a mask. This feels like a bad Black Mirror episode where we have very effective means of combating a deadly disease, but many people refuse to do it just because? I think it's because reasons, Jeremy. And there are reasons why you should be able to write a sentence before becoming a professional journalist. So we enjoy our article, and we look for more of them in the future so we can laugh and laugh. Now, perhaps we will not be laughing as hard as we are at Dungeons & Dragons. Now, Wizards of the Coast, the parent company behind D&D, and I apologize if my voice has gotten gruff, because I've been yelling and ranting for days about how idiotic some people are. And indeed, COVIDIOT. Check it out. Turns out Dungeons & Dragons is racist! Oh, no! Now, the orcs featured in Dungeons & Dragons are innately evil entities, and it's believed that they were created by J.R.R. Tolkien, another known racist. Anyway, they're trying to get you to be able to play full orc characters for some reason. Right now you can only play half orcs, and I think this is another example of speciesism, folks. What say you? Check out this HuffPo article. Dungeons & Dragons race issues have deep roots in the world of fantasy. So stop being such a racist, you speciesist plutocrat. Speaking of plutocrats, the next round of lockdowns won't be as easy as the first, because people aren't going to obey them, because what's happened is people have seen the government say, hey, lock down unless you're protesting or burning down buildings. Then you're fine. Oh, make sure you socially distance while you're rioting. Now, I'm a big supporter of peaceful protests. By the way, the new lockdowns will be longer and could last for who knows how long. Now, I'm what we call essential personnel. And by the way, you're essential too. All humans are. So, yeah, like I said, compliance will be a problem. Especially since everybody is more broke than they were a few months ago. So politicians will insist that we're all in it together as they collect six-figure salaries to sit around at home and do nothing and pretend to be effective in any way as public policymakers. Here's somebody who's not effective in any way as a public policymaker, Bill de Blasio, whose performance sucks so hard that he's making NYC unlivable. Let's just move on, as this is just an opinion piece here in the New York Post by Michael Goodwin. And shout out to Michael Goodwin. If you want to come on the show during a Smash Lights section, we'd be more than happy to have you. Tragically, the coronavirus, economic shutdowns, and the frequent street protests mixed with pillaging and vandalism are no ordinary hurdles, but they are surmountable with courageous leadership, something that Governor de Blasio lacks. He is a virtue-signaling hack, and I'm just going to move on to talk about Pennsylvania's top COVIDiots, former NCAA linebacker Dr. Rachel Levine, who's not qualified to tell me anything about health, and Pennsylvania's top COVIDiot, Governor Tom Wolf. Now, there's been all kinds of petitions, one of which was authored by me to get rid of Governor Tom Wolf. Please leave a comment if you'd like to start a GoFundMe to purchase him a one-way ticket to Bangladesh, Antarctica, Siberia, or some other place. Perhaps a place with no extradition treaties where we can, hold political, plutocratic, corporatist criminals responsible for their fuck-ups. Hey, Tom, that's an awful nice government you have there. Be a shame if it shuts down. You know what I'm saying? It's an awful nice government. The only non-essential business is the government, as officials are paid way too much money to do way too little work and contribute nothing to society. I don't know if Tom Wolfe fills up his swimming pool the same way Bernie Sanders does, but the idea that higher taxes stimulate the economy are equivalent to you taking water out of the shallow end of your pool, spilling a bunch of it, that's government payroll, and then pouring the rest in the shallow end and wondering why your pool's empty. So, don't have an infantile response to things like all of mankind has had to Fisher-Price, my first pandemic. What a joke. What a joke. Hey, how about focusing on general health and respiratory health and, cardiovascular disease? The thing that kills tens of times more people in first world countries? By the way, malaria kills more people around the equator in non-first world countries. So anyway, congratulations on surviving a global pandemic so far. And let us know if you'd like to see merch like this, or merch like this, or perhaps something else. And thanks for tuning in to the Smash Streams Smashlights section. And now it's time to move on to more stuff, more fascinating stuff. Let's get to it. We'll get back to solar data here by looking at the 10.7 centimeter radio flux, a proxy for sunspot number. As you can see, it's quite proportional, very, very proportional, and correlated with sunspot number. So the 10.7 centimeter radio flux has some advantages, as back in the 1940s we didn't have any space-based equipment to view the sun, and so we could view its activity using the 10.7 centimeter radio flux discovered in 1947 by Canadian radio scientists. It's currently at 69, just off of solar minimum levels. The X-ray flux is quite flatlined here. We see a little bit of activity there, but nothing resembling a flare. Proton flux totally flatlined, no surprises there. And let's look at the Gong 2 next, and we are right in the moment of crossing the polarity boundary here between the two different polarity current sheets. So as you can see, there's the latest image. And we're currently in the North Pole oriented current sheet shown over here in green, most certainly. What the heck is going on with Epic Pen? Hey, Epic Pen, why ain't you working? I guess I can't draw on the screen. That's pretty jerking. All right. Anyway, there's the Gong 2 data. And we're most certainly in the North Pole current sheet. Not sure exactly where that happened, but there's the data from the Gong 2. It was probably in the last 12 hours or so. Keep in mind the magnetic environment can change with no warning. Now we're looking at the view from stereo A, and we don't see any coronal mass ejections or anything like that on either side of the sun. Here's the view from the LASCO C2. This is part of the SOHO, the Solar Heliospheric Observatory. Nothing special going on there. Comet watch. The Navy's discovered some new comets on the LASCO C3. And we've sighted a bunch of them while doing the daily space weather videos. We find comets all the time by accident, diving into the sun on both the C3 and the C2. GOES electron flux is a little bit higher than it was yesterday, perhaps, close to yesterday's levels, and we could see an increase in this. Fingers crossed. Next, looking at the total electron content forecast. This will show you GPS errors and so on, which of course are at their maximum levels around noon at the equator. Let's see if we see any anomalies over the Caribbean and stuff. They're a little bit less than they've been. And here's the ionosphere layer. The total electron content includes the entire air column. This one only includes the ionosphere, courtesy of Government of Australia Bureau of Meteorology. And it's looking a little anomalous here, highly discharged at nighttime, although nothing to write home about. Yeah, the day and nighttime are both a little bit anomalous there. Let's move on to earthquakes, and we see a swarm striking western South America. And again, that remains my favorite spot for a large quake. having one of the only 8 magnitude quakes in the past year coming from that location. We're just going to scroll up the list, starting with this one here in Bolivia. It's at nearly 300 kilometers depth, and it's a 4.6 magnitude. Another deep quake striking Chile only an hour and a half later at 121 kilometers and a 4.2 magnitude. Another Chilean quake at depth. That one coming in about an hour and a half after that one, south of the original two, 4.5 magnitude at 128 kilometers. I think the largest of the past 24 may have been this 5.5 in Turkey, which could have certainly caused some damage, as there are some buildings that are not earthquake-proof located there. Hopefully everybody's doing okay. Leave us a comment if you're viewing the videos from the Middle East. Next, looking at a 4.6 at Argentina, so another deep quake in western South America. This 4.6 magnitude quake is at 125 kilometers depth. It came in at 2016 Universal Time. And just back to the list. And a deep quake in Afghanistan coming in about an hour ago, I believe. 7:25 UT, a 4.0 magnitude quake at 219 kilometers. Next, looking at volcanoes here at volcanodiscovery.com. To see Mount Abico must be erupting, flight level 10,000 there. Mount Asama back on the list, seismic activity continues to fluctuate. And the Japan Meteorological Agency recorded 4 and 2 volcano tectonic earthquakes respectively on the 28th and 29th June. Continuous emissions from Dacono are producing a 7,000-foot flight level there. Flight level 14,000 as Revenador explodes, and Sabancaya exploding as well, producing ash emissions and a 24,000-foot above sea level plume of ash. Please do not pole vault the caldera. Next, looking at windy.com's pressure maps. Here's where our pressure cells are now, and we're letting this advance into the GFS forecast into tomorrow. I'll pause at around noon to give you a one-day pressure forecast courtesy windy.com, who has a great mobile app, by the way. And hey, windy.com, drop us a line. We need sponsors. Next, looking at lightning maps. And we see some lightning strike in the U.S. Check out lightningmaps.org the next time you hear thunder. We had a severe thunderstorm warning in my location last night. And I think we had a little bit of thunder, but it wasn't really anything too special. If you're in St. Cloud, head outside and look around. You may see some amazing light shows to your south and to your west. In Minneapolis, there's thunder rolling in. Again, if you want to impress your friends and frighten your foes, check out lightningmaps.org. Yes, you can forecast thunder. And again, Minneapolis, there's thunder rolling in. Starting with Prior Lake. Next, looking at water vapor maps for Europe and Africa, as the Saharan dust has not been doing what weather forecasters have been forecasting it to do, which is hilarious. Here's water vapor maps for the Far East and Oceania. Shout out to our Australian viewers. Anybody viewing from New Zealand, please leave us a comment. Also from the Far East. I don't think we have anybody from the Far East, as David Dubine used to view the videos. Who knows if he still does. Next, looking at the water vapor map for the entire Western world here. And this is all part of the NASA GOES Interactive Weather Satellites suite, and they are sweet sweets. Next, looking at just the U.S. water vapor map, and we're going to zoom in on those severe thunderstorms there over Minnesota, where perhaps the fires are going out. I don't really know what the status is. Please let us know if Minneapolis and St. Paul are still on fire, because reasons. And we see a band of dry air in here in between these regions. It's causing a bit of compression and a bit of stalling of these South Dakotan portions of water vapor. So expect that to hang around. And some rapid cloud nucleation, and an interesting section here where some cells are combining. Keep in mind, folks, for your new viewers out there, this dry air is much more massive than this moist air, and that's one to grow on if you want to understand meteorology and weather forecasting. The water vapor map is the key if the Doppler radar is not telling you what you'd like to know. Speaking of the Doppler radar, there it is. indeed, those storms over Minnesota look like they're stagnating as well. Let's go back to water vapor for a quick moment. And yep, indeed, there is some dry air here. This is a high altitude, low pressure system. And while that weakens the eastern edge of it, it also stalls it and encourages this unification of the water vapor masses. So there you go. Let's actually zoom in on that area, as that looks pretty bad. Wisconsin now getting hit too. Here's the close-up. I'll play the animation for you. So some of those are going to be fast moving and some of those are going to stagnate, and they're going to train on your locations. Which, by the way, training is when you get a line of storms that are moving in line with your location. So, and we got a string of severe thunderstorms there over the central south also, places like Tennessee and Kentucky. Shout out to Senator Rand Paul for exposing waste, fraud, and abuse by the overpaid government. By the way, if you're locked down and you're wondering what you should do, well, maybe one of the things you should do is read our forum. We've got a cosmology forum. And there's an extensive section on Cygnus X3, which is this massive X-ray binary consisting of a massive radio source orbiting a Wolf-Rayet star, which is hot and blue and so big that if it were in our solar system, we'd be inside of it because it's about the diameter of Mars's orbit. And this massive radio source orbiting this massive star has an orbital period of about 4.8 hours. If you don't think that's weird, well, what makes it weirder is that the one relativistic jet shown here in blue is pointed right at us, and Göbekli Tepe is pointed right at it. Thanks to our SMASH team, and we've awarded you the Congressional Medal of Ownage, so enjoy that. And again, I'm smAsho Mash, aka Dan. Thanks everybody for tuning in. And thanks SMASH team for sharing the content on your social media. Again, don't forget to check us out on all the links that are listed below the video. And please continue supporting the channel, or consider supporting the channel if you don't already do so, as we are utterly broke and doing a lot with a little. Since, Captain, censors indicate censorship, fraud, political bias, and spyware/junkware emanating from big tech. Thanks for flying American Smashways. Please allow me to vanish. And please keep your head and arms inside the SMASH plane at all times, as we've got 3 bonus segments. First of all, the intensitygram, showing you we ain't got no sunspots. There's a bit of a magnetic organization happening on up here. Could be some umbre forming there, but not yet, as we don't see any dark spots. Here's that area of magnetic organization. There's a big area of North Pole polarity, followed by a big area of South Pole polarity. Otherwise, not a lot to look at there. And the last thing we'll look at is a 48-hour SDO video in 94 angstroms. One of my favorites. It's got this bright green color going on, and it looks a bit like the GOES X-ray imager, which has been offline for months. We're not exactly sure why so many instruments are offline, but they are nonetheless. It could be from last year's electron storms. Let's hope not, and let's hope the equipment isn't destroyed, and that people get back to work and get it fixed and back up online, sending us data as soon as possible. So thanks for tuning in, folks. Remember, stare at the sun, don't drink, and if you do, don't drive. And since it'll never be now again, welcome to the Neo-Renaissance. May that solar wind be at your back. You're Batman.